A king who has everything: power, palaces, servants, banquets, statues that speak his name. And yet, when he's offered the chance to choose a divine gift, King Midas does what many would do in secret. He doesn't ask for love, he doesn't ask for peace, he doesn't ask for wisdom, he asks for something that seems foolproof: an absolute economic superpower. The legend begins with a strange, symbolic encounter. Silenus, Dionysus' old companion, gets lost, wanders off course, and ends up among mortals. Midas welcomes him with respect and hospitality, feeds him, protects him, honors him like a sacred guest, and in a world where the gods notice every detail, that gesture carries enormous weight. Dionysus, grateful for how Midas treated Silenus, grants him a favor: choose whatever you want. And here the myth snaps shut like a perfect trap, because Midas forms a wish that sounds like brilliance but is actually a life mistake: I want everything I touch to turn to gold. For a moment it feels like a miracle. The king brushes a branch and the wood stiffens into shining metal. He touches a stone and it becomes a gold bar. He runs his fingers over an ear of grain and turns it into jewelry. Midas laughs, intoxicated, feeling invincible, because gold isn't just wealth. It's safety, control, status, the promise that no one will ever bring you to your knees. But the myth is ruthless precisely because it takes the wish literally. Everything means everything. The king sits at the table, reaches for bread, and the bread becomes gold. He tries to drink, and the water becomes gold. Even fruit, wine, the food that should keep him alive, turns into the very thing he thought would save him. And in many later, harsher versions, there's also the heartbreaking moment. Midas tries to embrace someone he loves and turns them to gold, as if his ability to love itself has been converted into an object. At that point the gift shows its true face. It isn't power, it's a logical sentence. Because if you turn the world into gold, you erase the world. If you turn what you need into metal, you can't live. If you touch everything to possess it, you lose the ability to use it. Greed in the myth isn't punished because it's ugly, it's punished because it's foolish, because it doesn't understand the hidden price of what it desires. Midas collapses, swings from euphoria to panic, and begs Dionysus to take the gift back, because he's dying of hunger and thirst in the middle of infinite wealth. Dionysus listens, but he doesn't undo the mistake without leaving a lesson. He orders Midas to wash himself in a river, as if water could absorb the excess and restore balance. Midas plunges in, and the myth says that from that day on, the river's sands turn golden, as if the king's greed contaminated nature and turned the landscape into an eternal warning. And just when you think the story is over, the second part arrives, just as famous, because Midas isn't only a man who makes the wrong wish, he's also a man who makes the wrong judgment. After the gold experience, Midas changes his life. He turns away from luxury and moves toward forests, rustic music, the world of Pan, where simplicity feels truer than display. But even there the same weakness follows him: pride. In a musical contest, Pan challenges Apollo, and the sound of the wild, earthy god of the pastures is set against Apollo's divine perfection. Everyone recognizes Apollo is superior, except Midas, who, out of stubbornness, personal taste, or sheer provocation, sides with Pan. Apollo doesn't strike him down, doesn't dethrone him, doesn't kill him, he brands him. He gives him, or rather forces on him, donkey ears, a symbol of stubborn foolishness and shame that Midas tries to hide beneath a turban. But the punishment here is social and psychological. Midas lives in terror that someone will discover his secret. And the myth turns eerie when the barber enters the scene, the only person who must see the truth to do his job. The barber looks, understands, and swears he won't speak, but the secret eats him alive from the inside. He can't hold it in, so he digs a hole in the earth and whispers into it, "The king has donkey ears." Then he covers it up, as if the ground could be a safe. But reeds grow from that spot, and when the wind passes through them, the reeds repeat the sentence, like a cosmic rumor no one can stop. It's a brilliant ending because it says something brutal. Some truths, even if you bury them, still rise to the surface. Some secrets, even if you hide them, find a voice. And here's the question that makes Midas feel modern: why does this story still work? Because Midas embodies two human temptations that never age: the idea that wealth solves everything, and the idea that our judgment matters more than reality. That's why today we say, the Midas touch, to describe someone who turns everything into success, yet the original myth whispers the opposite: be careful, because success without measure can become sterile, gold without life is only weight, ego without listening is only noise. And there's one more thing that makes the legend even more fascinating. Midas isn't only a fairy tale character, he's also a name with historical roots. In 8th century BC Anatolia, in Phrygia, there really was a power rich and influential, with a capital tied to the name Gordius and the stories of the Gordian knot. Ancient Greek and Near Eastern sources speak of a ruler who resembles Midas, as if the myth took a real king and turned him into a universal parable. Archaeology then adds an even more tangible shadow: massive burial mounds, preserved wood, grave goods, cauldrons, and traces of ritual banquets, evidence of a world where power wasn't measured only in gold, but in memory, ceremony, and bonds between the living and the dead. Maybe that's the point. Midas isn't immortal because he touched gold, he's immortal because he touched an eternal human problem. And in the end, when the image of gold fades, the most important question remains, the one worth more than any treasure. If someone offered you an unlimited gift today, something that looks perfect and immediate, would you be able to ask, first, what price it will make you pay?